What's going on, everybody? Cigar Titan here, back once again with my good friend Brotha Stogie. Say hello to the people.
What up, Cigar family? Back in the house once again.
Brotha Stogie, why don't you tell them what we're going to be talking about today?
You know, today we're coming at you with a very serious topic this time. We are coming to the topic that has been plaguing mankind for so long, and that question is, does size matter? Before we get into this topic, go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Make sure you give us a thumbs up, hit that bell to get a new notification every time a new video pops up.
You ready to get started?
Let's rock.
So as the title of the video suggests, today we're going to be talking about the different sizes of cigars and what that means to your cigar smoking experience. Today, I'm personally going to be smoking a G2. The size of this cigar is a 7x48, which is a Churchill. Brotha Stogie, what are you smoking today?
Today I am smoking the Sweet Jane by Deadwood Tobacco Company by Drew Estate. And this here is a Petite Corona, and this is a 5x46 ring gauge cigar.
But before we get started, we start talking to you guys about, does size really matter? Which we all know it does. Let's get these cut open.
So as we're discussing the topic of does size matter, we're gonna start with the basics here. We're gonna start off with the basics of how do you cut a cigar. So starting off with my Petite Corona, I'm gonna start off with a straight cut because I don't wanna use my V-cut, which I particularly like as a favorite. And the reasons being is because the size of it won't take the V-cut, it'll tear it to shreds.
For me, I went with a V-cut on my Churchill cigar. This is typically a cut that I use on Churchill cigars. The size of the cigar isn't really affected by that type of a cut, but depending on the overall width or circumference of a cigar, the type of cut that you use on that cigar definitely can affect how well that cigar performs. You just want to take a little bit off the tip. Typically with larger ring gauge cigars, you have a little bit more flexibility when it comes to the type of cut you want to use for that cigar. The smaller the cigar, the fewer the options you may have for the type of cut for that particular cigar. There's just not a lot of room to play with back there when looking at using, say, a V-cut or anything for that type. Typically for your smaller ring gauge cigars, such as your Lanceros, your options are a little more limited in the type of cuts that you would use for a Lancero cigar. You don't want to run the risk of overcutting a cigar and cutting off more than where the cap is. You don't want to damage the cigar and run the risk of having it unravel. So when you're looking at cutting a smaller ring gauge cigar, typically the straight cut or a punch cut tends to be the best option for smaller ring gauge cigars. So switching topics, how does size affect the overall burn time or the amount of time you could be enjoying your cigar? Brotha Stogie, why don't you tell them a little bit about that?
So as I said before, I chose the Petite Corona Sweet Jane. So I chose this one because the smoke time for this one anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour. That means I will be sitting here socializing, taking drags off my cigar for anywhere. Talk too much.
No, it's not. You said you were going to sit there socializing, so I was socializing.
Is that what that was? Fuck threw me off.
So mine's a little bigger than Kendall's, but this isn't a contest, right? So when you're talking about burn time for a Churchill cigar, you're usually looking at about an hour to an hour and a half smoke time for something of that size. Churchills, depending on how they're packed, how tightly the tobacco is rolled in the cigar, how often you're drawing or smoking the cigar, all play factors in just how long your smoking experience will be with that particular cigar.
So pretty much, why is this important? The reason why we brought this up is for new smokers who come on the scene who grab a stick that's maybe
Grab a steak?
Grab a stick?
Grab a steak? Maybe we
Grab a steak? I say grab a stick.
Grab a steak? No, I didn't hear grab a steak. Grab a steak.
That's my Drew steak. Tomato, tomato.
Tomato, tomato.
So why is this important? This is important for any new cigar smokers who come on the scene, who are going to your local cigar lounge to enjoy a smoke, but they've never smoked a cigar before. So what you need to take in mind is that how long are they going to be sitting there enjoying their smoke? 45 minutes to an hour, Petite Corona. hour to an hour and a half, maybe two, depending on what the socializing is going.
That doesn't always necessarily mean that the burn time or your cigar smoking experience is going to be a short one. I think that if you're looking at setting aside time to enjoy a cigar, a good rule of thumb is to usually make sure that you've got anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour to smoke a cigar. And again, all that depends on the size of the cigar. So another thing size can affect is just how well a cigar will burn. This doesn't always mean that bigger ring gauges will underperform smaller ring gauge cigars in the burn department. Again, there's a lot of factors that go into play on just how well your cigar will burn. Could have something to do with how you have your humidor set up. It could have something to do with the tobacco of the cigar. There's a lot of factors that come into play when talking about how well a cigar will burn down as you're enjoying it. One thing is for certain though, is that typically with larger ring gauge cigars, there tends to be a bit more difficulty keeping that cigar burning evenly, what we call a razor sharp burn all the way around, just because that cigar has a lot more ground to cover as it's burning down.
So it's been my experience smoking smaller ring gauge cigars due to the fact that you get your even burn all the way around, and be it that you don't have that much tobacco to go through, it's a shorter burn time. Things you tend not to have to worry about when that's the case is that you don't have to worry about relighting. Usually if you stop to have a short conversation while you're in between drags, you don't have to worry about your cigar going out on you. It stays lit the entire time, in my opinion.
So how does size affect the flavor of your cigars? Well, that depends on the cigar really, but size can affect the flavor of the cigar. Typically, when you're dealing with something like Lancero, you have a smaller, more concentrated roll of tobacco, which does tend to provide a little more flavor from that cigar smoking experience. With your larger ring gauge cigars, you're able to fit more leaves of tobacco in there. So it just depends on what type of blend is being used for your larger ring gauge cigars that could affect the flavor. So Brotha Stogie, what's been your experience with regards to size and flavor in your mouth?
So my personal experience with smoking larger size cigars is that I usually get a lot more flavor notes, anywhere between up to 4 or 5 flavor notes for that particular cigar. For example, with my Sweet Jane here, I'm getting a earthy coffee note from this cigar. Very different from a larger ring gauge where I'm getting 5 notes, I'm only getting 2 here.
Goes without saying that all of this is just a matter of opinion. Again, there's a ton of factors that go into each cigar rolling experience that can ultimately affect the flavor profiles of the cigar. The size is not going to be the #1 determining factor on how a cigar tastes. But what I would recommend, if you happen to be in your local cigar shop and you have the chance, buy a cigar in 2 different sizes and see if you can tell if there's any different flavor profiles that you're getting from one cigar that you might not be getting from another cigar. Overall, I think it's personal preference when it comes to the size of cigar that you personally enjoy smoking. Some people like the Lancero size cigars that are a little easier to handle. Some people like the larger ring gauge cigars. Larger ring gauge cigars are actually very popular. People tend to equate larger ring gauge cigars with a longer smoke time. That's not always the case, but it does come down to personal preference. What's right for you?
So in wrapping up, remember this is all a matter of opinion. Don't be afraid to go out there when you're choosing your cigars to try different ring gauges. Try your Petite Corona, try a Churchill, try a Robusto, and see how you enjoy it.
That's the great thing about this cigar smoking journey we're all on. There's so many different options to choose from. Get out there, find what works for you. I'll list a description of all the different cigar sizes down below. Let us know what you like to smoke. What's your preferred cigar size? Is there a cigar size you don't like? Let us know down below in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.
Thank you once again, Cigar family, for coming in and checking us out on Cigar Titan channel here on YouTube. Until next time, live how you smoke, smoke how you live, and that's smooth, baby.
Take care, everybody.